All right. If you're ready, I think it's 11. We're good to go. Let's start the session. Andrew, it's probably nice if you would introduce yourself and Johannes and the session. So take it away.
Yeah, if you've been following some of the banter up to now, we've got Johannes Ebner, global black belt specialist from Microsoft. I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. My name's Andrew Walker. I'm head of business development and sales for EMEA. Microsoft has a place close to my heart. I spent the years 1998, 2003 there, working for the DirectX team and then the Xbox launch team. And I've always kept in touch with what Microsoft has been up to. Still got a lot of friends there, and always been very impressed with how the company has continued to evolve and develop, even though it's very big, as we all know. But they continue to produce cool technology. That has always been something that has been close to, a lot of developers. It keeps developers close and interested. Unlike myself, as somebody who's worked in technology and publishing and developer relations, Microsoft always has an interesting story to tell. So I'll pass it over to Johannes. I'd love to know more about what a global black belt does. As a former games technology evangelist myself, we share the fact that we have some rather unusual job titles in our history. But Johannes, we welcome and hope to hear some interesting insights and information about cloud native gaming. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you very much, Jürgen, both for having me and for the introduction. It was great. Yeah, so I hope you can see my slides. I was not too sure about this. Can you?
Yes, no problem at all.
Okay, perfect.
So, and people can hit optimize if they can't see it well. So.
Alrighty. So yeah, cloud native game development. Actually, it's more lifting your studio to the cloud, and that's I didn't realize how loaded that term is with Kubernetes and everything. So we will be talking about lifting your studio to the cloud, and actually I try to keep it not too long, to have some places for or some time for a discussion afterwards. As Andrew already said, I'm a technical specialist at Microsoft in the global black belt gaming team. We're a specialist team, which mission is kind of true to the Microsoft motto of empowering everyone and every organization on the planet to achieve more, because we are effectively a sales team, but we work with game studios to be really successful with the cloud, with Microsoft Azure and our products, but in general for the games, right? So we do what is right for the customer, just like you guys and the Photon people. And that's also why we work together with folks like you that are our partners, right? We could be technically competition, but our business lives by sharing things and doing what's right for the customers, right? Our team is Andreas and myself who do the technical part, and Delia who takes care of the commercial part. She only just joined us yesterday, so welcome, Delia. Yeah, so we have the same team structure, by the way, in the Americas and Asia Pacific. So we have different contacts there, but you can contact me anytime, and I'll make the contact here. We are working with Azure Game Stack, which is everything you need to build, run, and grow your games. And that is Microsoft Azure and Azure PlayFab, which is the online service powering today's biggest games like Doom Eternal. Just to get the branding right and everything, so you know, because on the bottom of the slides there is Microsoft Game Stack, and you need to know what this is. So pandemic-driven development, right? I used to be a game developer before. I used to do test-driven development, and the pandemic has driven a lot of the developments recently, and that's the reason for my talk, right? Because we're having an industry insight, and I thought I'd share my insights of what that means eventually. So we have had a lot of impact in the industry. The first one is actually a very good one, and that is an increased demand on games, right? Verizon reported, for example, a 75% increase in gaming traffic, which is staggering, right? And we can only guess what that means for the total business of the games industry, right? We will see probably later this year. One of the key trends is game development from home, of course. Like many of you who have had to work from home because of lockdowns, particularly here in Germany, where I live, we have had a serious lockdown, and kind of everyone who can works from home. Then we have had travel restrictions, which was bad for the gaming industry, and kind of is the reason why we're here today, because all the industry events like the GDC or something were either cancelled or were moved online, and that's why I particularly like this event, because we're talking about insights, really, right, and have an open platform for discussion. And then, of course, we have had capacity restriction, right? And so the public internet usage surge with Netflix and gaming put a strain on the business and everything. I mean, like in my street, I just moved during the pandemic, which was horrible. Don't recommend. I went from fiber to vectoring DSL line, and I could have 300 megabits, but in fact, I usually have like 50 during the day because everyone's at home. So the main trend, I think, yeah, that was the impact. I'm sorry. So the main trend was work from home, right? That we need to cope with. I think we will be there for a longer time, or many of us will be there for a longer time. If you look at the pandemic development right now, the numbers are increasing again, and personally, I do think we will be having a second lockdown, at least in Europe, right? So we will be sticking with that for a bigger part. There are a lot of benefits, of course. I mean, no commute, how awesome is that?
Pretty awesome.
Because you can actually spend more time with your loved ones, right? Then you can tap into a global talent pool. You can hire basically everyone from anywhere on the planet, and you don't have to take care of visas. You don't need to take care of all the legal stuff, or not so much, and everyone has a chance, and that is actually a diversification of staff. And then there's less office space needed, which can be very, very cool for your budget, right? In fact, one of our customers canceled their offices altogether because they said, oh, we're probably not going back, and if we do, rents are probably low anyway, so we'll see how that works. And then we have a productivity boost. Before doing this, this presentation, I thought it's a potential productivity boost, but there are actually studies and surveys that show that there is a 13 to 47% increase of productivity, because the lines between work and private life do blur a bit, but we really need to mind the burnout here. And that brings me to the challenges, because there's the personal well-being is very important. You need to make sure that that you're separating very well. I'm working in home office anyways, but and I have a family and 2 kids, but it's difficult for me at times. But it's also great because I can play with the kids during the day. I've had my own burnout. I know how to cope with that, but that's not everyone, right? Then devices is a big problem, or a big challenge, because many of us in the game development industry do need special devices. For example, artists need like proper drawing tablets, or QAs need a huge array of devices to test, or mobile developers, right? They need all the different kinds of phones, and bandwidth, of course, as I mentioned before. And then last but not least, it was communication and relationships. I'm seeing this in my everyday work, and it's sometimes stressful, or no, it's not stressful. No, that was the wrong word. It is sometimes very, very difficult for me to make a new relation, and that is very important because we help customers, right? And we want to be a trusted partner for them. But if you don't have the personal relationship, it's very difficult to do that. So, because that is such a strong focus, I think, in the industry in the near and far future, I think what we need, and that is my personal opinion, that is not a Microsoft thing, right? This is my very personal opinion, is the modern game studio. And the modern game studio is there to facilitate work from home and has everything that is possible in the cloud. And when we think about this, I think there's three main components, and one of that is workstations, because we never really had workstations in the cloud, which had GPUs, right, or affordable GPUs and modern GPUs. We now are at a point where we have them and where they are economical. And then we have there's code and assets. Where do we save our code? How do we make it available? And same for assets, because let's face it, they're massive, right? And that is often a challenge, particularly when we talk about network bandwidth, right? And the cloud has the capacity for both for bandwidth and storage. And then services that are kind of utility services, external things that we want to use in our game production. And for components, you need a glue to put them together, and that is, in my personal opinion, is Azure, of course. And with Azure, I think we have a really great offering, because we have 52 data centers all around the world, and we have, I think, the biggest network that is all our own private network, 200,000 kilometers of lit fiber optic and undersea cables. So all our internal IP traffic stays entirely within our global network and never enters the public network. And that's why games like Rainbow Six Siege run on Azure, because we have that network capability to deliver those kinds of low latency network all around the planet. Yeah, let's dive into the specifics. Workstations. As I said, we now have the ability to GPU power them. For example, we have the MI25 GPU and VM SKUs, and that is great because you can actually split the GPU or have multiple GPUs, right? You can have, like, if I don't need as much GPU, I can say, oh, I just want to have a half GPU or a quarter of a GPU, or I can have multiple ones. You can centrally manage them, like with the Azure Active Directory. So when a new user joins, you just need to basically set up a new account, assign a role, and give them basically an image to boot from that is already prepared for a program, an artist, whatever. And you only pay what you use. So if an employee is there for 9 hours because they have like breaks in between and stuff, you only pay 9 hours and not for the whole day. So you always, of course, need to do the total cost of ownership calculation. Basically, what does a workstation on premise cost me, and what does it cost in the cloud? But usually that is with this model more favorable with cloud workstation. And you have that high-speed network, and it's available everywhere, right? You can go to whichever data center in the world you want to go. Then we have code and assets. As I said before, we have the capability to store incredible amounts of storage. For example, for builds, that is very important, of course, because for AAA games you have gigabytes of storage you need. For example, our internal first-party studios built a system based on Azure Storage to make builds available for the home office as well. And you can, of course, use the same thing in the cloud. We'll actually include some links with the presentation. And then GitHub or Azure DevOps, where you can host your code in Git repositories, and also use them for project management, which is one of the services we offer when we go into or look into utility services. And in general, we have a lot of extra services like databases that are globally available, NoSQL and SQL, and all kinds of analytics and insight stuff. But as I said, we also work with partners like EMEA, where you can have your game servers there. So, for example, you want to spin up test servers. You can do this with EMEA as well. You can use Azure PlayFab for analytics and game backends. And for example, there's also a cool thing with Incredible, where you can do parallel build acceleration almost infinitely within the cloud. And there's a great story with the Coalition where they did this for Gears of War, and are still doing this to enable a fast access to builds, right? Because otherwise they would build for hours, and they would only, before that, they would only have 2 builds available per day. And of course, you could host your Perfor server for your binary assets, or use Git LFS here. What is important also, you can have all this infrastructure also made available to your partners or your contractors, right? So you don't, you can make sure all your intellectual property stays with you. Everything is in your security boundaries and according to your standards. But there is this fourth component I mentioned maybe earlier, and that is hardware, and that is still a challenge with drawing tablets, Xbox dev kits. In fact, with the xCloud technology we launched this year, where you can stream your own Xbox. We have also built a PC app where you can stream your Xbox dev kits from on-site in your office to your home. And phones and tablets and PC configurations for QA, for example, will still be a topic which we probably need offices for, right? So, yes, I hope you can achieve more with Azure and Microsoft GameStack. And I would very much like to hear your opinion, what you are doing, what is your approach to home office?
Well, thanks, Johannes. That was great. A great presentation. I really enjoyed kind of getting an overall view of how Azure and the Microsoft can support you in your migration towards a more cloud-based development or a cloud-based environment to build your games, and all of the various services that Microsoft provides in general. I sort of had one question that came up when I was sort of listening to that. Maybe you can sort of try to give us an insight on what does sort of impact in terms of lag or delay does moving your building process or moving your asset management process to the cloud. Is there an impact? Does moving to the cloud-based workstations have any impact? I'd be interested to have your sort of thoughts on that.
Yeah. So got the sharing. Sorry. So yes, there could be, right? It very much depends on the technology you're using. There is when you have a cloud workstation, we of course offer Windows Virtual Desktop, but this is designed for let's say regular use. If you just need to do office work or something, then this is very good because it's optimized for low bandwidth environments. Or if you have low bandwidth, then it's great. It is made for low bandwidth environments and for regular use, let's put it that way. If you have higher demanding graphical workloads, right, then one of the partner solutions that are compatible basically would work very well, like TerraDigi, that specialize in such workloads and makes them a lot better.
Cool. Okay. So obviously cloud has, and cloud native has a few different connotations. Like you mentioned earlier, there is kind of a few different interpretations of what cloud native means. I think a lot of the industry sort of talks about cloud-only games. I see announcements of developers who are specializing in cloud-native games. So do you see a future in cloud-only games? For instance, if GPUs are widely available in the cloud, will game streaming really become viable?
Yeah, I think we're now on a trend there, right? There is a lot. There are quite a few companies who engage in gaming or in game streaming and making this available. You probably all noticed it has been a thing for the last 10 years probably, where a lot of companies have tried to go there. But the technology, as I said, was just not there, because it's the same thing with workstations and games, right? You need proper and economical GPUs, but we are there now from a technology perspective in the cloud. And the great thing about this is that with a rather limited set of virtualized hardware, it gets much easier for you as a game developer to develop for that, because then you can say, I don't need to have to test for like this huge array of different PC components, right? It's kind of like a console where you have your game in the cloud, just like xCloud, right? You just pay for a service, a monthly subscription, and then you have the hardware you need to have a great experience, right? And that makes it easier for game studios to develop, I think. And that is great, and I think we will see a great surge in that, because not everyone wants to buy a new graphics card every now and then just to play the latest game or a new phone or the latest console generation, right?
Yeah, just ask the NVIDIA 2080 owners about that.
Yeah, totally. I have a friend who has had exactly that problem. He's freaking out. But you're getting yourself into that problem yourself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a interesting. It's actually a really interesting way to look at it. You have in the cloud and a streaming platform. You can assume a certain set of hardware, like a console, and maybe that then reduces your problem space when it comes to testing and configuration testing and input testing and all the other parts of the matrix that you have to worry about normally or right now. Right. So I have another question, more for maybe to help some of the people that are watching. So maybe I'm a developer, maybe I'm an indie, maybe I'm just somebody that doesn't have a connection with Microsoft right now. How do they approach you, or what would be your best practices for approaching you or your team to kind of engage or find out more about how the Microsoft game stack and Azure PlayFab can help them and how do they then engage that problem solving with you?
Right. So first of all, we have a great entry point with GameStack.com, where you have all the products together, where which we offer under that brand, and usually the most of them are actually free for you to try. So if you can also go to azure.com/gaming, and you will find a gaming specific offering for Azure, which is free for a couple of months to try, and some forever. Some services are free forever. So that is great to just try it out. And then one of the things I started to like as a customer of Microsoft's is the new developer documentation at docs.microsoft.com, which gives really great really great introduction to a lot of topics, including like integrations in PlayFab with GameEye or Photon. So we will also cater for the third parties here, for our partners. And then we are there as a team to help you make the most out of Azure and our technologies, and actually help you with your game as well. So we have been engaging in architecture reviews as well, because we ourselves, I mean, one of the hiring requirements of our team is to actually have worked in the games industry as a programmer, for example, myself, right? And we directly engage, so we visit you if you want. Maybe in that time it's not so great, or do this via video chat and just help you with whatever problem you have related to game development. Right?
Okay, are there, just looking for any questions that are coming from the audience? We've still got a few minutes left, I think. Jürgen, is that right?
Yeah, we got a few minutes left. I got a question as well, but I want to highlight, of course, that the audience is allowed to put it bluntly and encouraged to ask questions at this moment, either via the chat or via video if you'd like, and if you're up for it. My question would be, it's going a bit back on what you said in the middle of your presentation. I was curious about that, so I wrote it down, and it's not a technical question, it's more a general question. We're all in this situation, which is new to us, of course, with COVID-19, and everything is a little more challenging and difficult. So I was fascinated by the slide challenging, and what because I have exactly the same. I have 2 kids. I need to find a way to make it work at home. It has advantages, of course, like being able to spend more time with your family because you don't have to commute. But on the other side, focusing on work and focusing on getting things done is getting more difficult. I found, for example, that I definitely need to have a space to draw back to, like my own office. But I was curious how working from home affects Microsoft in general, and not only you, and how especially building those relations you mentioned, you missing from the events that have been cancelled or general meetings. How Microsoft approaches that. I know you're doing a lot of stuff online, you're doing blogs and a lot of informative things, but maybe you could tell us a little more about that. How does Microsoft support you in that, and how do you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, we do almost all our meetings with Microsoft Teams. Of course, it's our own product. We get it all for it.
Yes.
But it's pretty great because it very much integrates with everything we have in our Office suite. But you can also use this from external very easily, right? Also in the browser, just like Hopin. And I think most of the solutions support this as well. In terms of flexibility, for me, it's really great because I can work whenever I want. In fact, it's probably better if I work at night, because I have a team or the similar team in the US, and we chat a lot with each other, and we have the same customers, for example, right? Because, for example, I have a customer in Berlin, which is being published from big US corporations. So we need to talk to both of them, and we have different time zones, which is very difficult. And then we need to coordinate this at some point. So this is, we are very free in that sense.
So flexibility and switching to online contact moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I try to do is I always have my camera on, right? Because I wanna ask people with that to also do this, because it's so important to see the facial expression, right? Because if we would have all our cameras down, I think nobody would actually listen, because it's so important to get feelings out of your mimics and stuff. Right?
Exactly.
It's an interesting observation. We actually sit in the Discord chat. We have different rooms, which might be different for different topics if we are having meetings. But yes, I think we do see that even on a small scale like GameIC versus Microsoft, that contact via video is super important. Facial expression, just the presence of people to help you always have a feeling of cooperation and being an office.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
But that's just my view, of course. I mean, there is plenty of people who don't like to have the camera on, right?
Totally. I mean, it's not one size fits all. It's just sharing what works for you, and that helps.
I think everything should be voluntary anyway, the way you approach it and your flexibility, but everybody should do what works best for them. And in general, I was amazed that you mentioned that the productivity actually went up and that they already measured this. I hadn't read about this, but it's funny to see that some corporations urging people to go back to the office because they somehow don't trust them. I don't really know why. Like Andrew said in GameIC, we're a remote team for a while now, even before the pandemic. And it worked out really great for us. And it gives us the flexibility not only to work like we want to, but most of our team is spread throughout the world. And there are a couple of people in Netherlands, Germany, UK, Italy, and it works out great. You can get the best people wherever you want to. So that's a very positive thing. But in general, everybody should approach it like it's best for them.
Like Azure, you can scale up your sessions anywhere for your office sessions.
I think that's the perfect roundup.